Hey friends, welcome to your Daily Detroit, where we talk about what's new, what's next, and what matters in Southeast Michigan. I'm Jer Stays. Today is quite literally a palate cleanser about a Detroit-based brand that's persevered for years and making a big splash right into the glass in your hand. Just before the pandemic, I talked with Jason Lavalla of Casamara Club. Well, they're on to some bigger things, so we're looping back on leisure soda. Sure, it's about drinks, but also business, and a Detroit brand that's making moves across these United States. A reminder, our happy hour celebrating 1,500 episodes is Thursday, October 17th, coming right up. Free to go to at the Congregation in Detroit, over on Rosa Parks, just north of Claremont in the Boston Edison neighborhood, running from 4 to 7 p.m. You can look us up on Eventbrite, and I will put a link in the show notes. And for those who have been asking, stay tuned. We are planning a fun and cozy weekend gathering for next month. Just so you know, joining in on this conversation with Jason Lavalla is Mr. Norris Howard himself. Let's get to it. Hello from the studio at Tech Town, and joining myself and Norris Howard at the table is none other than somebody who can be described as not just a founder, but a club president. And we don't always have presidents.
We don't always have presidents on the show. I'm very excited about this.
And you know what club he is president of?
Hit us with it.
The Casamara Club.
Yes,
which
sir.
Is actually a drink.
Yeah.
This is neat. This is cool. Now, longtime listeners might remember that, Jason, you were on the show before the Panini.
Yeah, January 2020.
Yeah, we were optimistic. We were hopeful. I had Kara Swisher, the tech columnist, on talking about all the economic things we were about to do. And then, no. But you persisted, not only survived, but have thrived, and there's a ton of things happening with Casamara Club. So before we get into it, what exactly is Casamara Club as a brand and what you do?
Let's see. We got started in 2017 with an idea of what if we could make non-alcoholic drinks that were as enjoyable to drink as alcohol. Not about, altering your mental state or sort of these nootropic ingredients, and not necessarily even about replicating the taste of alcohol, but like, what if we could match the sophistication? What if we could match that sense of fun and exploration that you can get by, going to a great cocktail bar and trying something new and experiencing all of these flavors where you're like, I think I know what that is. This other ingredient, like, what's that one again? And then you get to taste it all come together. And there's a little bit of I get a real joy and pleasure from that. And so the goal early on was, let's put that into a non-alcoholic context. And that is how we ended up creating our line of botanical sodas back in January 2020, the last time I was here.
Time is just a construct.
Yeah, right. We were calling them sparkling Amaro soft drinks. We found that nobody knew what the heck we were talking about.
Except Engineer Randy.
That's true.
And our engineer Randy knew what it was.
That's right. But I think over time, we've refined that a little bit. We've gotten a sense from, I think, our community, what they actually like about our drinks. And so these days we refer to them as botanical sodas, and each flavor takes inspiration from a different cocktail, a different place around the world. A lot of our focus early on was Italy, but now we've got some Caribbean and New Orleans inspired stuff. And we're just sort of slowly building out the map. And
Yeah, and I just want to say, for those who are listening, obviously you can't see, you have seen these sodas around, right? So the branding, and as soon as I describe it, you're going to go, I know exactly what it is. So you've seen these sodas. They got kind of the, I want to say, Art Deco, Miami Vice-ish style branding.
Yes.
Where it's just like a sunset and a boat, but it's not really a boat. It's just like two triangles. And they have names like Onda and Casa, like they're so vibey. I've had them many times. I'm not a big drinker, so I love to be able to have an option. So everyone out there, you've seen these drinks and you've probably had them and just didn't know where they were.
Your point about not being a big drinker makes me think of your timing, which I think is probably impeccable, because there's been a long time where it's like, well, the only thing that you can have that's not like juice is a cocktail. And if it isn't alcohol, it's not worth it. And the vibes have changed around that so much, even since 2020, where not only there are people who do not drink, there are people who want those options, but also people who want to break or shift between things, but they want something that's got a little bit level up, shall we say. They still want to enjoy the experience, but the booze, for whatever reason and whatever personal choice, is just not in the cards that night.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the way that we try to approach it. To say that we had impeccable timing, thank you. I don't know if I agree. I feel like we might have been a little early with it in some ways.
You're still here.
Yeah, but
right?
we are
you
still
went up
here.
the hill and you did not die, and so therefore your timing is good, right? Sometimes it's just about existing in business. I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes it's just about sitting there and existing and not moving off of that chair until the barbecue is done. And sometimes that takes a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there is definitely something to that.
I definitely want to say to Jared, to your point in talking about the non-alcoholic or the sober movements that we're seeing around the nation. I mean, a number of non-alcoholic brands have popped up over the past, really post-pandemic. You're starting to see a lot of groundswell with non-alcoholic drinks. And one of the things that I love just about this, though, is that I feel like the non-alcoholic drinks try to be a little bit too, how shall I say it? You're drinking this because you can't drink, right? You're drinking this because we're trying to make you feel like you're still a grown-up by drinking this. Whether it's like with Casamara Club, it's like, no, we're our own thing, and you drink this because you like it.
Yes.
It stands tall and stands firm, 10 toes down,
10 toes down.
And that I like, because it also opens up who would be interested into this and the people who are drinking it. You know what it reminds me of in a little way in positioning? Think about Liquid Death.
Yes, yes, and I was just about to mention on Liquid Death, and I
this
just
is the
wanted
Jason Lavalla love show, by the way.
No, but I'm just saying this one thing because, like, for me, for instance, I don't really drink pop. Like, I can count on my hands how many times a year I drink pop, right? But I like bubbly drinks, right? So I often find myself buying a La Croix or something like that. Because,
you mean a drink that has a flavor that stood next to the sparkling water?
Yeah, that's like fizzy water, right? So I feel like there are a lot of people who love the taste of drinks, of alcoholic drinks, but don't want to get drunk.
So this leads me to the question, Jason. How did you come up with this idea?
For me, it came out of just a personal everyday need where end of the day comes around and I like to have a drink at the end of the day. And what I started to notice is that little reward, that little treat drink at the end of the day, it was either, this really nice whiskey or a craft beer, or it was that LaCroix. And
that isn't a reward, sir.
It doesn't feel like it.
It's not. It's a means to an end.
Yeah, there's a utility to LaCroix for sure. Like, I think what they do is useful, but that's something that you crush 3 or 4 of throughout the day, and you don't have to think about it. I wanted a drink that could, stand up to a little thought, stand up to a little bit of like, ooh, that's good. What's that? I really started off by taking flavored seltzers, adding a little bit of bitters, a little bit of, whatever syrup was in the bar cart, maybe squeeze some fresh juice in there. And I started making myself these little bitters and soda cocktails after work. And from there, I started to realize like, oh, hey, this is what bartenders drink when they're behind the bar and they're trying to get through their workday when they're surrounded by alcohol and just need another option. That's when it all kind of clicked. I could take this bitters and soda template and I could take some of the more, I think at the time they felt like very obscure references to Italian liqueurs. I think to some extent they might still be fairly obscure, but I mean, even Amaro and the Negroni, all of those have had to come up over the last few years.
There's even a Negroni week now.
Yes. Word to House of the Dragon for definitely repopularizing the Negroni. It's true.
So I know that there is like a line that's been out for a little while. Why don't we talk about that? And then you've got a new thing coming up too.
Yeah, the new thing just dropped. our distributor partner here in Michigan, has been seeding it around town and across the state for a couple of weeks now. We just went live with this on our own website, and so it's popping up around Detroit. It's popping up in Grand Rapids, Traverse City. Like it's starting to happen a little bit. And the goal for us was kind of going back to what I was saying about we were maybe a little early with the original 6 flavors. There was no category for us to be creating into. And so we had to invent the category. Now, with a little bit of hindsight, a little bit of what our community has been telling us they want for years and years, we were able to create something. We're calling it Super Classico, our non-alcoholic aperitivo that is a bit more of a cocktail strength non-alcoholic drink. So whereas the originals, light, refreshing, easy, Super Classico, big, punchy, bittersweet, like something that an IPA drinker might enjoy as much as a Negroni drinker.
And I want to chime in because I want to ask, first of all, I love your branding across your entire company. Super Classico is a little bit different, whereas like the previous sodas were like vibes. This is like F1-ish fast. Like there's
I'm crushing 4 of these on my Vespa.
That's what I'm saying. Like the lettering is like in italics and everything about it just says like, you know, this is hyper fast. You want this. You need to drink it. And so my question is, and this is just across the board, you took a left turn with the branding in general with Casamara Club. How did that come about?
I think for me, it was about making sure that when you saw this, you wouldn't be confused. You wouldn't look at it and expect the same thing that you know us for if you know us. And so for me, it was really about how do we create something that feels like it could be a part of our world. That part of the world just doesn't exist yet. And how do we sort of expand the aperture? And when you look 10 degrees to your left, what do you see over there? Because we know the vibe in the Casamara Club that we've created thus far. This was like us staking out a little bit
breaking
and
your
exploring,
own rules a little.
breaking all of our own rules. Yes.
So why don't we break out some of this stuff to give it a try? And while we do that, Jason, I want to ask you a business side question in that, you know, you were talking about distribution. How does that change? Because you are not alcoholic. Does that free up some of the things that you can do? Because listeners will know that alcohol is a very regulated space, but this is not alcoholic. So therefore, you know, when somebody's leisure awaits, which I'm now looking at the cans themselves, which this is, the can is even, it's got texture to it too, which I really appreciate. But how does being a non-alcoholic brand either help or hurt you in like the building the brand space or getting it out there, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think the most surprising truth about that is that the biggest way that it helps us is that we are able to be a little bit unique in the portfolio of these alcohol distributors that we work with. And so
so you are going through alcohol distributors, not say like a food distributor or
exclusively like specialty tier alcohol distributors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for us here in Michigan, the reason that we chose to work with our friends, our partners, M4, they do such a great job with all of the highest of the high-end craft beers around the state. And I said, you guys are going to all the places that we want this drink to be available. Can we make this work? And they, I think, to their huge credit, saw the vision on this way, way, way back in, I think this was February 2019. So almost a year before we spoke the first time. I think it started for them as people would ask, like, what do you have that's non-alcoholic? And what we wanted to give them and then to give to their customers, to their accounts, was an answer to that question.
All right, I think we should crack them open and see what we got here. Let's get here. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can smell the vanilla.
It's got a nose.
It's got a nose. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Yep. We drinking this.
So one thing I'll notice about this, because I've tried all the other ones, it's the first time I'm trying this one. There's a little bit more on, not a lot more, but a little bit more on the sweetness kick, it seems. Although still very low compared to anything. Like I drank a ginger beer last night. I forgot how much sugar is in a ginger beer.
Yeah.
Like a ton. I was like buzzing afterward going, how did I sneak in like 102% of my sugar in one can? I usually watch these things.
Yep.
And this is a lot less than that, but it's still got something to it.
Absolutely, yeah. The original lineup is very, very low in sugar. It's very dry. And part of that was because, you know what? When I'm drinking something non-alcoholic, I'm thinking about that a little bit more because I don't know how much sugar is in a Negroni. I do know how much sugar is in
And
a
after three
Coca-Cola.
Negroni,
Pepsi.
and after
Right.
3 Negronis, you don't care.
You don't care. Yeah. And so this was us saying, we're already being good to ourselves by not having alcohol right now. Maybe we deserve a little sugar as a treat. And so with only, 48 calories, 12 grams of sugar, you can have, I think, 4 of these before you've matched what's in a can of Coke. To me, that feels like a pretty good place where I'm getting my treat.
I'll also note that it's Demerara cane sugar, not high fructose corn syrup, which
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
is my own personal hill that I'm going to die on, because I just think it's so great if you're going to do something like this for taste. The cane sugar, I think, brings a lot more to it. And some of the other things, if you look at the can, you've got red currant, you've got lemon juice, you've got extracts of colon nut, orris root, vanilla, right? All these things.
Listen, it's mad flavorful.
Thank you.
It's mad flavorful. And I think the thing for me, this is the first time I've done a taste test on the show, and I'm very excited about it. The one thing I will say is that not only does I don't want, because it has sugar, so I don't want to call it totally guilt-free. But the thing that I love about this is that you're going to look good drinking this, y'all. You're going to look good. The can is handsome.
People
can
don't
is
realize
handsome.
people don't realize this, but Norris often dresses up even just to come to the studio. So like you could do like a whole Instagram influencer campaign right now.
You got to understand, because when you look good, you sound good, you feel good, and this drink is going to make me drink good. So, I'm just being honest. I don't be this effusive about things I don't like. And, I think, with Casamara Club and what I've seen is really interesting. And so I think my next question is, where's the future lie for not just Super Classico, but for Casamara Club? We see that the non-alcoholic movement is growing. More people are choosing to not drink, or at least when they go out, not drink as much. Where is the future of this? I know you talked about distributors. You talked about, different parts of Michigan. Are you looking, how national are we looking here?
What's kind of funny is that we had started off with let's just be in every specialty shop across the country. It didn't necessarily matter if we were, say, dominant in a market, because we knew there might be 20 or 30 spots in every cool city that if we could get them to carry it, that would be okay for the first couple of years. And we were able to...
Are we defining cool cities by cities that have Casamara Club or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Arbitrary.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it's kind of a self-selecting bunch in that way.
Well, you are a club president.
Thank you. What's been kind of fun is over these last 6 months or so, we've started to realize that there's real opportunity in digging in here at home. Michigan has been our top market for as long as we've existed. We just hired our first salesperson here. We brought in a couple of partners to help us really push this, they just started a firm called Brand Detroit, and they are really helping us push this out and really helping us try to hone the vision, because when we look around, we see brands like Bell's as that could be a North Star.
And you're rooted here.
Yep.
We're neighbors.
Yep.
So to give people an idea, this isn't just somebody just showing up. You are here for sure. Now I'm going to go in a different direction, Norris. Mm-hmm. You asked the more businessy question. I'm going with if you're putting a little nip of alcohol in this, what are you doing, Jason? Would you guide us, oh Sherpa, oh club president? So
this is a fun question. There are a lot of things that I've tried in these first few weeks. So I'll give you some of the greatest hits. And my number one, my favorite thing so far is non-alcoholic. It is, you mix this with orange juice.
Brunch.
Yep.
Brunch. Oh, you're a non-alcoholic mimosa.
Yes. It's really fantastic. And
wow.
Doesn't even make that much sense. This doesn't taste like champagne.
No.
But for some reason, when you mix it with orange juice.
That orange juice brings a lot more sugar to the party.
Yep.
Right? That infuses it with a lot more. That dials the sweetness way up just because it's orange juice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't mess it up. Put a little orange juice in your glass, maybe a little ice. fill it the rest of the way with the Super Classico, and it's a fantastic drink. Another thing that I've tried, which is, I don't know, this might be a little avant-garde, but I think your listeners might be interested in going on this ride with me. So one of the main flavor inspirations for what we're doing with this drink is the Negroni. And so I made a Negroni, and I topped it with this. And it's really good.
Adds a little bit of bubble to it.
Adds a little bit of bubble.
Kind of kills a little bit of the super dry.
Yeah, because
Yes.
a Negroni.
Yes.
So here's the thing. I enjoy a good Negroni, but to me, like when guests come over, that is like a second or third level offering
Yep.
where I make sure. Because if you bring somebody by your house and they've never had a Negroni before, and that's the first thing you give them, and they've never visited that world before.
They're not coming back.
Thanks. This is why I have no friends.
I'm just saying it's a very specific drink, but I could see if you brought them over and said, "Hey, I got a Negroni, but I got a twist to it."
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And you toss that in. I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see it.
And then the other one that I'm finding is really working is like, if you're a whiskey Coke guy, if you're a rum and Coke person.
Really?
Yeah, this will take the place of your Coca-Cola, of your Diet Coke, and it's easy. If your sort of at-home drink making requirements are, I need to be able to make this easy without a recipe, that is what I would always push for. Sure. So CasamaraClub.com, we've got a little map up that shows a lot of our active accounts. We're growing every day. Like I said, we just brought on that sales guy and he is crushing it, bringing in more and more accounts every day. So we can't always keep up, but at the very least, that map on our website will at least show you the spots where we know that they've had it. Around Detroit, for example, it's everywhere from the fancy restaurants, your Marrows and Ladder 4s, your Leñas, the coffee shops, Anthology, La Ventana, Alba.
But they also reach out. You also reach out into the suburbs. Like I'm
Yep.
seeing pins, out, by Rochester Hills or Ann Arbor and some places like that. And if you are an expat listener, you're not just limited to Michigan.
That's true. We are available, I believe, in something like 21 states in a kind of a similar class of spot, not as widely available. But, if you're in San Francisco, New York, Seattle, even around Ohio, you
Were
can
you
find
aware
us.
you're available in Alaska?
I was.
There's one spot. We do have an Alaskan listener.
Oh.
So you can go into Anchorage and go to La Bodega and get yourself.
Yeah, they have been supportive for a long time for us. They're really cool. I think they must put a lot of thought into what they carry. I haven't unfortunately been able to go visit.
I
but
feel like this is like an online ad campaign, right? That writes itself.
I think so.
Just traveling the world with Super Classico, just showing up at these places.
Oh, I like that. We got to do this. Let's take this show on the road.
Sounds good to me. Norris, pack your bags.
We're going to Alaska.
Well, that's where we will end this conversation. Jason Lavalla is the founder and club president of Casamara Club. Thank you so much for stopping by the studio of Daily Detroit. I appreciate you, and I'm always glad to see a neighbor's success.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Friends, thank you so much for listening. A quick favor before you go. Will you tell a friend about your Daily Detroit? Word of mouth is the best way to push Detroit's conversation forward. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and I'll see you around Detroit.